Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Ryan Day, the Ohio State Buckeyes, really starting to make some noise as it pertains to the transfer portal, landing not one, but two commitments coming in Monday afternoon. I think the headliner, the name that most college football fans will recognize, West Virginia running back CJ Donaldson. They also dipped down to the FCS ranks and grab edge rusher Logan George from Idaho State. Now, we're going to get into Logan George, a guy that I had to go back and watch a little Idaho State football, look at some numbers. Logan George is never going to be a guy that goes for 10 sacks and 15 TFLs for Ohio State in 2025, but he is a hammer, setting the edge and stopping the run. And that's something that you talk about a guy like Jack Sawyer, as he's gotten better as a pass rusher. That's what most people talk about with Jack Sawyer, but don't forget what Jack Sawyer does stopping the run. I think that's something Ohio State clearly values in their edge defenders. Logan George at 6'5", 260, I think can bring that to Ohio State as well. Now we're going to start with CJ Donaldson, talk about Logan George as well. Anytime that you talk about Ohio State as it pertains to the transfer portal, you're never going to talk about them bringing in 25 new names. It's just a program that doesn't need to do that because of how they recruit the high school ranks. But from a year-to-year basis, they'll look at the roster and say, hey, what holes do we immediately need to plug heading into next season? That running back spot was probably one of the positions at the top of the list. Losing a guy like Travion Henderson, probably going to have Quinshawn Judkins going to the NFL. It's not a knock on a guy like James Peoples, who I think is going to be a really good running back for Ohio State. It's more, hey, we probably want to get a proven commodity in there at the running back room as well. CJ Donaldson's been doing it for 3 straight years at West Virginia. This one to me makes a lot of sense. Want to get into both of these players, talk about a few more targets to keep a look for if you're an Ohio State fan. Now, before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. This is a really fun portion of the college football season for myself. Roster construction, talking about the transfer portal additions, the amount of support y'all continue to show to the fellas means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. The transfer portal hasn't really been at the top of the mind for Ohio State fans. You still got business to attend to, you might say, in the 2024 season. That being said, Ryan Day, he wants to be competing for national championships every single year. And so he's going to be looking to upgrade his roster heading into the 2025 season. Let's start with CJ Donaldson. A fascinating story, I think, is where you want to start. This was a guy from Miami, Florida, that was recruited to play tight end, made the transition to the running back spot as a true freshman, and had a heck of a year in 2022. Has followed that up with some really good seasons in 2023 and in 2024. 6'2", 240. You kind of know what you're getting here with CJ Donaldson. I don't know if he'll be an all-purpose running back for Ohio State. He certainly can be. But you talk about goal line situations, you talk about short yardage situations, some of that stuff that's the difference between winning a national championship and not. CJ Donaldson's that guy for those kind of situations. This is a no-nonsense running back that wants to attack the line of scrimmage and get downhill. I love that about him. You look at a lot of running backs, especially at the college football level, you got a lot of running backs that like to dance and go east and west and not attack the line of scrimmage and not take what's there. CJ Donaldson is not that kind of running back. I don't know if he'll ever be the most explosive running back for Ohio State, but he's a guy that wants to attack the line of scrimmage, deals with contact exceptionally well. It's just a big physical frame that defenders struggle to bring to the ground with probably the best stiff arm that you see in the country. I mean, 6'2", long arms, and he's got some power in those hands. And so you look at CJ Donaldson and say, hey, this is an exciting addition for Ohio State. I don't know when the last time Ohio State had a running back this big and this kind of physically imposing. I think a lot of Ohio State fans should be excited about what CJ Donaldson brings to the table. And you look at him and say, I also think he can be a really dangerous pass catcher out of the backfield, which you're not used to saying when you're talking about a 6'2", 240-pound back. He played the wide receiver spot at the high school level. This is a running back that when you do see it on the film of him having to catch footballs, he's comfortable doing so. Didn't get a ton of opportunity to do it at West Virginia. Ohio State can use him in a lot of different ways. This was a guy that you look at the high school film and say he can run some routes, he can separate, has nice natural pass catching hands, a little bit more than just a big bruising running back that's going to attack the line of scrimmage. This one makes a lot of sense because you were a little concerned about not necessarily the talent, but the depth of the running back room for Ohio State in 2025. Now, the other one you got to talk about, Logan George from Idaho State. Not a player that I've had a ton of eyeballs on, but you look at Logan George and you kind of buzz some of the PFF numbers. 28 run stops in 2024. This is a guy that can rush the passer. But I think what stands out to me about Logan George is how much of a hammer he is against the run. Look at JTT and Jack Sawyer. I mean, yes, they're very good pass rushers, but they are two of the better edge defenders in the country stopping the run as well. You want to get all those sacks and you want to get your pass rush going. Well, it's damn important to make sure you're winning on first and second down, stopping the run. Logan George can do that. And you look at the edge rushing position for Ohio State going into 2025 with Jack Sawyer and JTT moving on. You have guys that you like kind of filling in the pipelines, but you probably wanted to add some more experience and depth to that position. Logan George is not going to be the flashiest name, but he's going to be a guy that really does help Ohio State stop the run, which has been a massive part in terms of how dominant this Ohio State defense has been the last couple of years. Now, two other names that if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'd be paying attention to. Ethan Onianwa from Rice. The offensive tackle spot is probably the biggest concern for Ohio State fans heading into the 2025 year. You land one from Minnesota. You look at Ethan. What fascinates me about this kid is one, he's a massive, massive dude, 6'6", 340. His first year starting at Rice back in 2022, gave up 37 pressures in 8 sacks. In 2023, 40 pressures in 5 sacks. He really struggled at the offensive tackle spot his first 2 years starting down there at Rice. Fast forward to 2024, only 10 pressures, 1 sack. Kind of emerged as one of the better tackles that you see in the transfer portal. What excites me the most about Ethan is where's that trajectory going as a football player? It seems to be going in the right direction. And again, with Chip Kelly running this offense, running the football is a priority. This kid is a road grader in the run game as well. You're getting a tackle that has a lot of experience, but also seems to be getting better as a football player, which is hard to find. Normally, the known commodities that you get in the transfer portal are 4th, 5th year guys that kind of just are what they are, and they might not give you a ton of upside. This kid, I think, yes, he's a known commodity. He's played a lot of football, but he also seems to be getting better as a football player too. I think that should excite Ohio State fans. And then Max Klare. Many of y'all know I'm a Michigan fan, and it sounds like Michigan, Ohio State are battling it out for the number 1 tight end in the country. He's an all-purpose tight end, which is when I say that I feel like that kind of flies under the radar. It's hard to find tight ends that can be very dynamic as pass catchers, but also get it done in line in the run blocking department. Max Klare is one of those guys. They ran that passing game through Max Klare at Purdue in 2024. One, because he's a really good football player. Two, because they don't really have any other pass catchers at Purdue. But he also blocks really well. And again, you see tight ends who are really good split out wide and can be dynamic in the pass catching game, but can't really block. And then you see a lot of tight ends that might be really good inline blockers, but don't offer you a ton of juice in the pass catching game. Max Klare is the guy that blends both of those together to kind of formulate an all-purpose, really good tight end. That's the reason why you're looking at one of the better players and tight ends in the transfer portal. Like we kind of said to lead, Ohio State's not going to land 15 plus guys in the portal. They might not even get to 10. They don't need to. They got a couple of positions that they want to address heading into 2025, but most of those positions that are going to get addressed are from recruiting the high school ranks, which is what it should look like if you're trying to build a national championship caliber roster. Even going back to last year where you saw Ohio State kind of push their chips and to really create a juggernaut of a football team, the transfer portal additions, the quantity wasn't all that high. The quality was, bringing in a guy like Caleb Downs, bringing in a guy like Quinshaw Judkins, some of the best players in all of college football. That's who Ohio State decided to go after to make that roster just that 1% better. We'll see where Ohio State goes from here. I don't expect a big transfer portal class. They got a lot of young talent that's kind of waiting to step in. But there are some positions that Ohio State will try to address. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.